Today we are joined by Mr. Ajitkumar Nair, the Managing Director of ProArc Welding and Cutting Systems. Their company is a pioneer in CNC cutting and welding automation space. A very warm welcome, sir. If you can just identify some major milestones that has, made you a trusted name in it.
So we had this retrofit offers which were there. We used to retrofit the panels for the requirements, and then we decided that okay, we need to have our own product. So here this was retrofitting work that we used to do. When we decided to have our own product, we got into welding machines. So this was where we actually moved into being a product company. So that is one transition, I would say, one major transition that we had.
Today we are joined by Mr. Ajitkumar Nair, the Managing Director of ProArc Welding and Cutting Systems. Their company is a pioneer in CNC cutting and welding automation space. A very warm welcome, sir.
Thank you, Amit. Thank you for having me here.
Your company has been in this space for almost 3 decades now. So what has been the founder's vision and how has that evolved over the years?
Like you mentioned, we have been in this industry for the last 30 years. We've been in business. So when we started off, one thing that has been common since then has been that we are always pride ourselves as a solution provider. So we've always seen, okay, what is the customer's problem that we can solve? And that has been something which has been ingrained in our DNA ever since we started. So the founding members of the company, when they started the organization, it was, they had that the fire of entrepreneurship, which made them decide, oh, we'll start this company in this space actually.
Right.
So when we started off ProArc, actually we started off way in the early 90s. Okay. And that's when liberalization also happened at that point of time.
Right.
So that is when the market was moving to a phase where earlier it was very difficult to do business maybe the 90s, and post liberalization, the access to imported items was much easier. So we started off at some point of time trading in trading is the line of business in which we started. Post which we thought that we need to have a product of our own. So we started off actually with welding machines at that point of time.
Okay.
And at that point of time, when the founders said they were looking at the market was dominated by international players or larger international players who had set up in India.
Okay.
But there was a gap that it wasn't in terms of affordability, usually, and after sales was an aspect where the thought was that the machines were sold and then mostly the machines were sold through dealers, and dealers usually there was a gap in terms of the availability of after sales service at that point of time. So that was the gap which was identified, and then we started making our welding machines and were actually directly selling to the customers, and that's how we evolved. And then eventually around mid-90s is when we started manufacturing CNC profile cutting machines.
Okay.
And that is what we are today predominantly known for, the CNC plasma range, CNC laser cutting machines, CNC gas cutting machines. Right. But one thing at that point of time when we started maybe 3 decades back, it was more about survival, trying to set up your place in the market. Today we are at a place where we're looking at how we can compete in the international market. So somewhere over the last 3 decades, we've been able to grow, and we are now catering, or we could say we are having products which are built in India and which is powering the world.
Right. So 3 decades is such a long time. If you could just point out some of the major challenges that you've faced over the period of last 3 decades.
I think at any point of time when you start a business, the initial thing is the availability of capital. So
right.
When the company was started, it had very less capital that was there. And then the other thing is somewhere in terms of technology. Usually most of the technology that's even today in India for the manufacturing space, most of the technology comes from abroad.
Right.
So these were some of the major challenges that were initially there. And in the space that we are in, where we manufacture the CNC plasma cutting, laser cutting machines, the major challenge was at that time, 3 decades back, the awareness was pretty low. Usually these kind of machines were bought by large multinational companies. So you seldom had smaller MSME companies investing in this kind of machines.
Okay.
So at that point of time, convincing the customers that this is a machine which is going to be really good for you and can help you with scaling up your business was a big challenge, because typically awareness was low, and you would always have, you would go to a customer and while selling the machine, he said, "Mera manually I'm able to achieve the same thing. I can instead of one machine I have 10 people who can do the work." So it's investing in a machine was a big thing at that point of time, and so even with these plasma systems that we use in our machines, we would have the presentations from the foreign OEMs who would always, the first thing that they would have in that thing in their presentation was that the benefit is your labor cost reduction that is there.
Right.
But that was never an issue actually in India at that point of time. Like, so we had to focus on how to convince customers on the productivity aspect, on the ROI. That was a major challenge at that point of time. And then typically when you're in a business for a long time, at different points of time, you have different curveballs which are thrown at you. So we, for instance, more recently, everyone have gone through the COVID wave where you had to recalibrate the way you do business.
Right.
Even today, there are different So earlier, it was at a very micro level we were handling things, but now macro conditions also come into picture.
Right.
And we are always looking at ways to still manage in this thing and be able to add value as possible.
Right. Talking about milestones, if you can just identify some major milestones that has made you a trusted name today.
So I would say when one thing is, before we started manufacturing welding machines, we are into control panel manufacturing. So we would make panels for the for welding automation projects. So there were a lot of old welding machines in the market which were there, like European machines, which had to be, and they had the electronics would always constantly evolve, or it would always change, and we would always so we had this retrofit offers which were there. We used to retrofit the panels for the requirements, and then we decided that okay, we need to have our own product. So here we were retrofitting work that we used to do. When we decided to have our own product, we got into welding machines. So this was where we actually moved into being a product company. So that is one transition, I would say, one major transition that we had. After that, another major, I would say, transition that we've had is when we decided from welding, furthermore, we should start manufacturing our cutting line. And that is where we started making these big machines and got exposed to much larger projects. So that is another transition, I would say, in the business that we had. And one of those other transitions that I can think of is we have been supplying a lot of machines over more than 2 decades to the government, Indian government. So that could be the railways or shipyards. And the advantage there that it has been is like by supplying machines into these fields, usually they would go for the high-end machines. It would not be, it would be sophisticated machines. So that helped us get access to that kind of technologies, have a product offering where we are able to take up a lot of challenging projects. So that is another thing which has helped us in this transition.
Right. So, in terms of technology, so welding and cutting technology has evolved significantly over the last few years.
Right.
So, what is that technological shift that you would like to mention about?
Yeah. So again, when you talk about technology, and we've seen a lot of change in the process also, and also on the electronic side of things. So when we were making a machine, initially the machines were all transistor-based systems we would do, then ICs, and then followed by CMOS systems that are there. Microprocessor-based systems came much later. So that transition, apart from seeing that transition, even within the processes, we do the oxyfuel cutting process. Oxyfuel cutting process has been there for more than 100 years now.
Right.
And more or less the process has been stable. I mean, it's been the same for a century now. But recently there was this introduction of, we were able to do a project where we use hydrogen for cutting. So instead of in fuel gas, instead of using LPG and all, which today, as you see with the market situation being such that everyone is looking for alternative fuels for that. So there is this hydrogen being used as a fuel gas. So this is a change that you would see. Within the plasma space also, like maybe more than 2 decades back, plasma as a process, people would always think it was something which could be used for stainless steel cutting. No one actually seriously thought of it for mild steel cutting because the cutting accuracies or your taper used to be quite high with plasma cutting.
Right.
Then eventually in this period we've seen much high definition plasmas being manufactured which give very high precision. And I would say one of the biggest change that I've seen in this tenure is the advances within the laser cutting technology. So laser cutting till 2010, 2015, predominantly there were the CO2 laser cutting machines. And then with the advent of fiber laser cutting, the market has completely changed. So with fiber, actually your laser was delivered initially through the medium, the transmission were mirrors. And now after this optic fiber cables were introduced, it became very easy to transmit the laser power. And then that actually has expanded the market. The technology became very affordable. I would say way back in 2017, there were around 300, 400 laser sources which were imported in India. And over a decade now, the numbers are as high as somewhere between 3 to 5,000 sources which are imported in India every year. So that is a major shift you would see in technology, along with the robotics and cobots which are used, which have come and made it very easy to do project, because the robots and cobots which are currently available in industries are very affordable as compared to what they were a few years back. So this is another major technological shift that you can see when people are focusing on projects where you can have the entire line assembly, including your robots and cobots.
Right. So you just mentioned that your company has been offering various kind of solution, plasma. So how it's manufactured and how does a manufacturer decide which technology is the best suited for it?
I think the main thing is what is your need. So like when we say we understand what exactly how is the currently what is the process that the customer is using, and what is so for instance one of the major, you could say, thicknesses play a major role in this. So if you're considering mild steel as a material, and for sheet metal, laser is always the preferred choice because laser has a lot of advantages when it comes to sheet metal cutting. And now with high power lasers coming, usually up to you could say 3/4 inch or 16-18 millimeters, laser has the edge amongst these systems. From that to maybe 1.5 inches, plasma is a dominant process, and above that you could say gas cutting. But this is only on the thickness front that I'm saying. But there are many other aspects also to it. Like if your jobs include a lot of small holes and intricate shapes, laser has an edge over there.
Right.
When you're looking at the material that is being cut, so there are certain limitations with laser where rusted material and treated material are slightly challenging to. It's challenging for laser systems to handle. There, then plasma is a better option to go for. Higher thickness, always oxyfuel has its advantage there. Then there are factors like what are the cut qualities, what is the accuracy that the customer is looking for, operating cost benefits, because across the systems there are different operating cost aspects to be considered. So all in all, it's a complete solution that you can think for your application. This is the application, we can identify the right solution for.
High demanding sectors, you just mentioned about railways, shipbuilding. So you provide solutions to such companies. So what are the engineering challenges faced, while working with such high demand sectors?
So understanding the application is key to offering the right solution there. And a lot of times you need to invest a good amount of time understanding what the customer requires. So again, just to take an example of a shipbuilder. When you for a shipbuilder, the amount of steel involved is a lot. Enormous amounts of steel is used in fabricating the hull of the ship, and any saving that you can get per plate, if you 1 or 2%, if you can get saving in the material, the yield of the yield of the cutting, that in itself will that's your bottom line, or your profitability increases when you are able to save on material. So in the shipbuilding industry, when you look at it, there again some challenges are usually the plates that you're using there are rusted plates.
Okay.
You need to handle rusted plates. You need good, powerful systems to handle that. Then most of the shipyards use optimization softwares, nesting softwares, and our machines need to be able to communicate well with that, the output of those things. So we need to create some kind of converters which can convert the output from the software, the nesting software, and use it in our machines. So there are a lot of specialized understanding that is required when we handle different industries. So within the shipyards, underwater cutting is quite popular within plasma technology. So within plasma, underwater cutting is something that is preferred there. Then when you look at it now today, a lot of data centers are coming to India. So there are heavy fabricators or pre-engineering manufacturers who are making complete setup for the data centers. So they have special requirements like box column manufacturing, which needs to be done. So again, that needs to be handled in a different way, because machines require not only straight cutting, edge preparation, bevel cutting is also required in the same setup. So it's a lot about understanding that requirement. So another one application that comes in my mind is in the piping industry. So again, oil and gas, worldwide you have a lot of, today we understand the importance of oil.
True.
And a lot of work is going to increase in this refining of oil post the war. And they require very specialized pipe cutting applications for the entire piping for this oil and gas sector. So we actually, the key is to the solution that we offer. We have certain industries that we've identified and there we don't offer a standard solution, but a little bit of customization which helps customer with their solving their problems.
Automation is transforming fabrication shops worldwide. So how is your company integrating automation, digital controls and smart manufacturing capabilities into its systems?
Yeah, so that is, example is like I'll just expand when I was talking about customization. Okay. So we have this requirement when it comes to automation now. Material handling is a big thing which is coming along with we are offering our laser cutting machines or plasma cutting machines, but customer asks us to give us one step ahead, wherein the handling of the materials is also very critical. So in terms of a lot of projects are coming up for where customers are looking for complete line manufacturing or line